So much for speaking to the BBC World Service. It's deeply appreciated. When you launched the Economic Freedom Fighters back in 2013, you positioned yourself as a Marxist, Leninist sort of political party with a sharp focus on the poor. In essence, you positioned yourselves as a socialist party. Would I be correct to say that?
You are correct. EFF's ideological orientation is Marxism, Leninism, and French school of thought. And Marxism, in terms of wanting to be equipped with the necessary, theory of dialectics, so that you come to appreciate how you resolve complex matters, both in your own individual life and in society. So you learn the law of dialectics, the negation of the negation, unity and struggle of the opposite, and transformation of quality into quantity. All of that equips you to have the necessary skill to engage in political theory, and not just in theory, but also in practice. And then Lenin, we subscribe to him, yes, for the left politics, but he captures very well how to build a revolutionary organization which will lead the proletariat, and that leadership must be part of the proletariat, but should not be swallowed. It must be an advanced detachment of the proletariat. And Fanon then teaches us about race, about post-colonial government which came in as revolutionaries and actually continued with the same things that the colonizers were doing. And he teaches us about black consciousness and Pan-Africanism, because at the end of everything else, we ought to remember who we are and locate ourselves in the geopolitics.
Right. In practical terms, what does socialism look like in Africa? In other words, what sort of policies are we talking about here?
We're talking about a policy where the state controls the strategic means of production. So anything strategic in the economy, the state must be in control. But when you say the state must be in control, people think that you are talking about the total 100% state ownership of that particular sector, which is incorrect. So we are saying there are certain things that we cannot entrust an individual private companies to provide. Things like railway lanes, things like ESCOM, things like water. I mean, just imagine that the South African electricity is now assigned to Rupert. And human beings are emotional beings. He just wakes up one day and says, these people have made me angry and he switches off the electricity. It can't be an individual decision on who gets electricity or not. It must be a state responsibility. The ownership of the Reserve Bank, the ownership of the monopoly industries, and so on and so forth. You don't close out private ownership, but it can't be dominant.
So ultimately, the state has to be central.
The state must be central.
Give me an example on the African continent of a state that is doing exactly that successfully.
There are no states in Africa that are practicing socialism. They all came in the name of the revolution, but they've never said they are socialist governments. So I wouldn't say there's this government in Zimbabwe or in Malawi or in Nigeria or in Egypt that I would say they've ever said they have declared their state a socialist state.
Let me respectfully disagree with you. Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana, Tanzania under Julius Nyerere, people like Mengistu Haile Mariam, who led the socialist military junta that led Ethiopia in the 1970s and 80s, also tried it with policies similar to what you are telling me about. So it has been tried in Africa.
No, your question, you see, you're answering a wrong question after you asked the question. You said, which state is practicing that? So we were talking about the present continuous situation. not who practiced it.
I
Zambia.
asked for an example of an African state
Yes.
that has done it successfully.
No, that is doing it successfully. And at the current moment, it's no such a state. It has been tried in Ghana, JULIUS, it has been tried in Zambia, and many other parts of the world. It is not the socialist policies that have failed. You must know that once you come up with a socialist policy as an isolated state, the world, the West, and America will come and attack and make sure that that policy doesn't succeed so that it is not practiced in other countries. So its attack on other countries and making it impossible for it to succeed does not demonstrate that it has entirely failed.
South Africa owns Eskom.
Yes.
And isn't that an example of what you're talking about?
Yes.
Are you blaming, foreign interests for the failures of Eskom?
But Eskom hasn't failed. The individuals who failed. We didn't have to change Eskom. We just had to remove an incompetent white person, director, and bring in an African competent person. And Eskom has turned around. So that's a clear demonstration that a state can deliver efficiently. Eskom has got its own challenges, but we have electricity now, and that is its primary objective.
You know what I'm trying to understand, Mr. Malik? Socialism failed the way it was born in the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to understand why you are so convinced that it will succeed in South Africa.
But capitalism has not succeeded anywhere.
Well, I didn't say anything about capitalism. Let's talk about socialism.
Must not be told that socialism has failed and therefore there was an alternative economic system that succeeded. No one can show me the success of capitalism in Africa.
I didn't say anything about capitalism though. Yeah.
But if you go to Cuba, you'll find a very successful socialist state which is able to provide the most basic necessities to our people, despite the fact that it has been under an economic embargo for the past 60 years. Imagine Cuba if it was not under the American economic embargo. It was going to be one of the most successful states that is practicing socialism. Even with the embargo, they are the best in healthcare, in education, in all manner of things, including life expectancy. So the quality of life that is produced by a socialist state in Cuba is not what people want to talk about. And imagine they do that under the embargo. Let's go to China. The Chinese government controls every strategic sector of the economy, and their GDP has been growing, they've reduced the unemployment, their economy is growing, and there is no any other state in the world that is growing at the pace that China is growing, yet it's a socialist state.
Yeah, I find the Chinese example interesting because the two societies, now when we look at South Africa and China, the two societies are not the same. You have South Africa that subscribes to liberal democracy. Our constitution doesn't allow our presidents to take up more than two terms, as you would know.
Yes.
Now, on the other hand, President Xi Jinping is there for life. So I'm just saying that I'm not sure why you are using China as an example. We're not the same, are we?
But you can't say because of limitations and non-limitations of the terms of office, therefore, we're not the same. The Americans, they spend 4 years in office, and our neoliberal democracy spends 5 years. And you will want to compare that as the same democracy, even though the number of years are different. We might be practicing the same policies like the South African government practices a capitalist policy, and Americans are practicing the capitalist policy. Their term of office is 4 years, and South African term of office is 5 years. It doesn't speak to the policy, it speaks to the terms of office. You can serve for whatever years you want, as long as the lives of our people are being improved. Why should we be obsessed with how many terms we have subscribed to? It's not our own democracy. We don't allow people to come and impose on us democracy. The earlier primitive society lived a democratic life before the arrival of the colonizers in Africa. And they used to have democratic methods and means of resolving their problems with their traditional leader being there permanently. So now we got some exposure of a practice that was imposed on us, and we said, no, anything that is not Western, anything that is not American is not democracy. It is a Chinese democracy, it is a democracy. You may want to go into policies on human rights and things like that. There are certain things that as you role model your state around Chinese practices or Cuban way of doing things, there are certain things that you may, as a country, say, well, they may be working for China, but we don't think they will work for us here. We can't be a socialist state that only takes up 5 years as a term and only 2 terms. You can be a socialist state. There's nothing in socialism that says you are excluded from limiting your term of office.
But South Africans don't appear to be excited by what you are saying. They don't appear to be excited by your policy proposition. I'm saying this because I'm looking at the election results here. 2014, you secured 6%, almost 11% in 2019, so that was growth, congratulations. But then you went down to 9% in 2024. What happened?
Well, it's a slight decrease.
It is a decrease nevertheless.
No, I'm not where I was. I'm happy you even have a state. I'm not where I started. If I was at 2014 and below, then we could declare a crisis. There was a phenomenon that arose in South Africa of MK, which we underestimated it and never thought it would have the impact it did. The number that you're talking about, which we have lost as the EFF, only comes from KwaZulu-Natal. Everywhere else, the EFF is growing and its numbers are promising. And given these elections, actually this percentage we got is a victory to us because these elections were about wiping off the EFF and we still emerged.
Well, but you can't say that you didn't see it coming. I mean, Jacob Zuma is a former president. You know very well that he enjoys support, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal. So I would say you failed to come up with an election campaign that would effectively respond to this problem.
No, you can't say from a comfort zone that I failed. You must step into these shoes. You'll realize that I fought battles.
I'm working with the numbers.
Yeah, you work with numbers. Elections is not only numbers, it's also the amount of time and what you put into an election. We, for the first time, have had a huge rally in KZN at Moses Mabhida Stadium. Something that was unheard of. Something that was exclusively for the ANC. We put up a good fight, and that's why we don't even regret, and that's why we can't even call for dissolution of KZN structures, because you must try so that even if you fail, we all ally, but they've put up a good fight. And that's what South Africans have said. They've put up a good fight, and they must not be discouraged by these results. Good things are still to come.
Your election performance of 2024 is not happening in isolation. You are dealing with the departures of key leaders, including your deputy president, Floyd Shivambu. You've also lost Advocate Darlin Bofu, your former chairperson. Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane has also lost. Mzwane Lemanye has lost. As we speak, I'm not sure if Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi is still part of the EFF or not. What's going on?
Nothing is going on. People are engaged in their personal development. Politics are not static. And when people decide they've done everything here and they think they need a different environment, they move to the next step. The only cowardice thing is they don't get to engage you openly and say, look, we've done everything humanly possible, we are no longer here.
Who didn't engage you?
All of them, everyone, including Dr. Ndlozi. He is a member of the EFF, but When he resigned from Parliament, he has not spoken to me. And no one has ever said to us, except that I went to Floyd to ask him. And I asked him, I said, let's meet at your house. And I went to his house for simple reasons that I wanted to speak to him in his comfort zone. And I said, I came here, you said you have not renewed your membership. I'm no longer a member of the EFF. So you don't have to look at me as a president or someone who can do anything to you because you are no longer under the EFF.
That's what you told Dr.
Yes, no, Floyd.
Oh, Floyd,
so I said to you,
yes, Deputy President.
Yes, so I said to him, speak to me openly. And then I went closer to him and I asked him, what did I do to you?
And the answer was?
Nothing. So why are you taking the decision you're taking? No, it's a revolutionary decision to take, I think. It's a personal decision. It has nothing to do with anything that you've done wrong. So that's me and him in his house. So if you say I'm a bully, I'm a dictator, and this man has got nothing to do with me, it's gone. It's in his house. He can speak anyhow he wants. There's nothing I can do. Outside security is his security. So if I go to a man's house and I ask him, what did I do? And he says, nothing. I have to accept it for what it is. There's no any other conducive environment where I can ask him that question and he answers, confidently. So it was the two of us. Then I said, let's call the Secretary General. The Secretary General came. I explained what I was explaining to you now to the Secretary General. And then he asked the Secretary General, he repeated that there's nothing. It's a personal decision and it's a revolutionary decision to take.
I remember the first time I did an interview with you in 2008. You were still president of the ANC Youth League at the time. Floyd was next to you. Over the years, he's been with you. You grew this political party together. Surely you must have seen that there was something wrong, no?
No, I've not seen anything. Because my question was necessitated by the fact that I didn't want to repeat what I did wrong to Floyd to another person. And that's what I said to him. I'm asking you not for you to come there. I'm asking you to tell me so that I don't repeat the same mistake to the next person. I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing, only to find that this person is offended by what I'm doing. So I cannot be held accountable and responsible for people who leave and they don't give me reasons and they don't give you guys reasons as to why they left. They are the only ones who can answer those questions because I don't know. But what is even more worse, they are in the opposition, they are in the leadership of the opposition of the EFF. They still can't tell you why they left.
Right. If you put it that way, would you not say that this is a reflection on your leadership? So, because I can imagine, an EFF supporter saying, well, Mr. Malema did well to build a strong political brand. This political party is now in parliament, etc. But maybe it's time for you to step aside and give somebody else a chance to come in with fresh ideas and take the EFF to the next level. People are leaving. Surely, it is a reflection on your leadership.
You said 5 people. You can't say people are leaving as if it was more than 50.
Mr. Malema, you are downplaying it.
No, you can't say
that. You are downplaying it.
I'm not downplaying it. You are overemphasizing it and trying to create an impression of a crisis that is non-existent. If there is someone who's asking the question you are asking, that person would have had to join the EFF and come and say that at the conference of the EFF, which was held now in December, where members of the EFF were there, where members of the EFF said, we want you to continue as a president uncontested. So you can't speak on behalf of members of the EFF. They had an opportunity to speak for themselves. They had delegates sent by members, and their mandate was, you must come back with that man as a president. So this imaginary thing that you're talking about, leave it to your own imaginations because it doesn't exist.
Well, as I say, I am dealing with the facts that are presented as they present themselves.
You can't say facts. Which facts?
Well, the fact
you say a member of the EFF sitting there says, okay, you built a party, now he's in parliament, leave. Where is that member? Because the members were in Nazareth now in December. Not a single one of them made those utterances. You can't say it's facts. You have to produce the material evidence to that effect to prove what you are saying. It's not true. So the second lie is people are leaving. There are no people who are leaving. You refer to 5 people, right? This organization has got more than 1 million members. This organization.
We're talking about key leaders.
No, this organization does not belong to leaders. It belongs to the membership. If we have not lost any significant membership, if anything, we're growing. And I was asking someone that, no, like you're saying, key figures are leaving and all of that. And I asked the question, we just came from the National People's Assembly of the EFF. Did you miss anything there? Would you say there was something that was happening or was not happening because certain people have left? We didn't miss them. Because you can come with a brilliant idea as an individual, but it will be subjected to collective interrogation. And once a collective decision has been taken, your individual ideas dwindle into insignificant. They become organizational positions. I might have participated in the formation of the EFF. So what? It doesn't mean anything because the idea came, I subjected it to the collective took it over. What I thought before is insignificant. What matters is the collective. The EFF's collective is solid and its membership is growing day to day. And we will demonstrate at the anniversary of the EFF how this organization is going to be when it turns 12.
I would like us to move on to the Government of National Unity, which was formed shortly after the May 2024 elections. Leaders of the African National Congress say that they invited you to be part of the Government of National Unity. Why did you turn them down?
We cannot be Government of National Unity with DA and Freedom Front. We said to them, we're available. We are ready to give our votes into Government of National Unity and deliver services to our people. But we're not going to sit on the same table with murderers and people who advocated for black genocide in South Africa and friends of the killers of Christian on the same table and still want to claim to be revolutionaries. We can't share power with the enemy. And that's what we made it very clear to the ANC. We have not even reached a point of discussing the positions. We were just at the beginning. It's us and you and any other party except the DA and the Freedom Front Plus. If the DA walks out tomorrow and the Freedom Front Plus were entering.
But if that's your position, how will ordinary South Africans see what the economic freedom fighters is capable of? Because surely this is a stage that enables you to demonstrate what you can do in government, no?
We were doing that at the metros in the municipalities.
Yeah, but now we're talking about the executive power. We're talking about cabinet.
We're talking about government. People want to see what you can do. And people are beginning to see what they are missing by not electing the EFF. Because if you go anywhere where the EFF governs, the situation in those departments have improved. So we're not going to be disparate to demonstrate our capabilities by sleeping with the enemy. We're refusing that. But in other strategic municipalities, and not just municipalities, metros, we are playing a significant role. And the competition amongst the executive members of the EFF in those municipalities is about service delivery. It's about how many projects have you visited and changed the lives of ordinary people this week. That's what we're known for.
So you aren't keen on the idea of pragmatism?
We're being pragmatic now. It can't be pragmatism if it includes DA, and if there's no DA, it's not pragmatism. We are putting our programs now into practice. Let me give you an example. We want clinics to be open 24/7, and we put that legislation proposal in Parliament. The ANC rejected it. Then we got appointed MMC of Health in Johannesburg. We went to build and open a clinic that opens 24/7 to demonstrate to everybody else this is what we're talking about when we are talking about 24/7 clinics. So we're not just talking. When we said in-source the workers and put that proposal in Parliament, the ANC rejected it. We came to Johannesburg and we in-sourced the workers. So I'm not saying just this theoretical. We are being practical about them everywhere else where we find an expression.
I would like us to talk about the thorny issue of immigration. You are calling for a borderless Africa. What do you mean?
We must have one passport for all Africans where we're able to move freely without any hassle. Because it shouldn't be easy for a British to move from Britain and come to South Africa with ease. And it becomes difficult for one of the African countries to come in because there are so many requirements of this and that when we are all living under one continent. If there's no free movement of goods and people, this African economy is stuck. The only way we're going to grow this economy is when we start trading amongst ourselves. It's when we start exchanging cultures amongst ourselves. It's when we start doing what Europe is doing. They give a Shanghai visa, you wake up in Italy, you eat breakfast and then you eat lunch in Paris without a hassle. But we're asking for the same thing, it becomes a big problem. It becomes a sponsored outrage that the EFF wants to bring all Africans here. It's not true. Even myself, I'm from Limpopo, and there's no border between Limpopo and Johannesburg. I came to work here. When the work closes, I go home. No one wants to come and stay here. We've got our own ancestral homes. But we cannot deny people to go and look for greener pastures all over the continent simply because they are Africans. That is wrong, and that is backwardness. Actually, people are going beyond these borders now. In most rural areas that are far from the gate, there's no fence. People wake up in the morning to come and attend the celebration this side and then go back in the evening without any hassle. People are now marrying into each other, people are now impregnating each other, and when the child is Zimbabwean and the mother is Zimbabwean and the father is South African, what happens to this child? So, I'm not saying people must not be documented. When I started, I said, we must all have one passport, which means we must all be documented.
You see, that's an interesting one, and I would like to pick up on exactly that, because you recently said African immigrants must find creative ways to get into South Africa. What did you mean by that? It sounds like you are advocating illegal immigration.
No. It was during COVID, and as the conditions were improving, people wanted to come back to their work. People of Lesotho, people of Swaziland, and all of that. And they were stuck. These are the people that were not coming illegally. Anyway, they don't need me to say we find creative ways. They are here. They were here even before I said that. But I had a problem with the workers, with the students who wanted to come back to work, and they were well documented, and they were being prevented from entering South Africa. That was an economic sabotage, because those people are what makes this economy to prosper.
So you wanted them to force their way in?
No, they had to come in anyhow, because the government was now using a strong hand on compliant people. On compliant people. Once government becomes unreasonable, we have no duty to respect such government.
So you have to break the law.
The unjust law is not law worth respecting. Let's
talk about nation building. What would that look like under the EFF government?
Well, the nation building under the EFF is going to be very nice, very interesting. The first thing we're going to do is to create a single national anthem. We've got two national anthems in South Africa, Ngosikel Africa and Distem. Why? Because you always want to appease white people as if they are victims when we are victims. White people do not know Ngosikelele. When we sing Ngosikelele, they are mumbling. And then when the stem starts, you must even look at the posture, the body changes. So you can see that these are two separate songs. And we've allowed that, and we call that nation building. We have to have one national anthem. That is going to force all of us to know it, because that's the only anthem we have. There's no any other alternative. There's no any other part that will come where I will participate. You ought to participate. Every symbol that symbolizes apartheid and colonialism has to be taken to a museum of history.
Such as?
The statues that we have that celebrate apartheid generals which have committed genocide. We cannot have statues of Pistorius and Kruger statues, and then at the same time you say these people have committed wrong things against your people, yet they are put at the center of every city. They are being celebrated. Why would people want to do away with the legacy of people who are being celebrated? Public space should be meant to celebrate people who have done good for South Africa and for the nation. So that's one of the things that we'll do. But you have to democratize the economy as well, so that when you speak the rich and the poor, you don't effectively mean white and black. There must be a deliberate state intervention to empower black people so that they can be at the same level with white people, and they can relate as peers, not as the inferior and the superior. So we have to do away with that. We have to change the content of the curriculum that we teach, both at pre-tertiary and at tertiary level, because only a decolonized education that affirms Africanness and blackness of our own people will be able to restore in them the confidence to be human beings and not regard themselves as subhuman. So all of that, white people will never resist it. White people are pushing their limits to check if they can find their way. From 1994, look at how they loved Mandela, these guys. If Mandela had said, this is the national anthem, white people would be knowing the national anthem by now. They just want a clear policy direction, and they will follow that. So we need to be clear about what mission and vision do we pursue, and all of us must buy into that mission and vision. We cannot be one nation without one mission and vision.
And that clear policy position means that you have to get rid of the English and Afrikaans parts of the national anthem.
No, not Afrikaans, this time. And you are saying Afrikaans deliberately.
Yes,
because
this time is Afrikaans.
This time is a song. This time is not
in Afrikaans.
Yes, it's a song in Afrikaans. So you don't say you want to remove Afrikaans, you're problematizing it. We can remove this term and still find an Afrikaans expression which reflects who we are today. This term was this apartheid national anthem. You will not ask the Jews today to sing Hitler's songs. If you try that here on BBC and say it's a nation building, you won't come back here. You're going to be expelled with an SMS. But we are being told to sing the songs of Hitler because the apartheid generals were Nazis themselves. They did exactly what Hitler did to the Jews to us. And now the song they were singing, we must sing it. Look at a victim of flag blast, where they were murdering our people and torturing them. They hit them, put them into a shed, not even cells. And then next to that shed, they brine meat. And then the smell goes into a shed of a person who's traumatized and tortured and all of that. as if that smell is not enough, when they get drunk, they start singing this day. You hear these people who have beaten you up singing this thing after beating you up as a celebratory song. And tomorrow you are out of that quagmire, and then you are told, sing that song they were singing when they were torturing you. And then you don't think you are bringing back the traumas of this person. We ought to be fair to the victims of apartheid. Anything that symbolizes apartheid must be crushed and sent to the Museum of History.
Do white South Africans have a place under a government that's led by the EFF?
There's no South Africa that will not have white people. They have naturalized, this is their home.
But I mean, you are singing songs like kill the farmer, kill the Boer, kill this one, kill that one.
And the court have agreed with me. So what is BBC to me if the courts can say there's nothing wrong with this song? It's not like I'm just being reckless and useless there and then, no, I've been before the courts. And the court said, in the context of the history of our struggle, this is a necessary song to be sang. Because it never referred to individuals. It has always referred to a system of oppression and apartheid. That's what the Boer and the farmer is used in that context. Not for individuals, farmers to be killed. Because if you must kill the farmer, then they must start with me. I'm the farmer.
Before I let you go, on a lighter note, when you are not busy fighting Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa or former President Jacob Zuma, what do you do? I know that you love football. I've seen you at the stadium.
Well, I'm a farmer. So when I find time, I go to farm. And then I spend a lot of time with my kids. I've got 3 boys and my wife, because we don't spend a lot of time with them. And December, I use it purposely for family gatherings. So for sure my family meets over 4 or 5 days because they never get to meet during the year. I mean, I would not want a situation where a person says, when I appear on TV, that's my cousin, but he has never shared a meal with me or seen me in an informal manner. So after everything else, I'm a family man. I belong to my family. And football, I support Orlando Pirates. I'm a strong supporter of Orlando Pirates, and when I get time, I do go and watch the games.
I guess that's one of the things that you and I have in common.
Yeah.
I'm a Buccaneer myself, and I'm a family man. I know that you also love music.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that you're a DJ.
Absolutely. If in the past, when things don't make sense to me and I get so stressed and frustrated, I will sleep during the day. I'll just go into blanket, sleep. And then when I wake up, I've got an idea on how we're going to deal with this problem. But as I was growing up, then I found, music as another way of calming me down. So, and my problem with my neighbors is that it doesn't have to be it has to be loud music, and it has to be house or mapiano. So it has to be a scope. So for me to unwind and come back to my senses. So I DJ, and my firstborn is now DJing better than me. And then his second brother, who's now 8, says he wants to learn how to DJ. So, and I've got CDJs in all my homes, not DJing for commercial purposes, but for self-entertainment.
Fun.
Yeah.
Let me put you in a tight spot.
Yeah.
Which one is better? South Africa's Amapiano or Nigeria's Afrobeat?
South Africa Amapiano. Nigeria Afrobeat is the thing. It's okay, but South Africa first, Amapiano first, then Nigerian music will come. You must ask those that I spend a lot of time with. I tell them, as we start playing, I say, no, you start with Amapiano, then you go to Niger, then you can go to other things. But those things of Chris Brown and all, I don't do such things. I don't want to be missing people when I'm sitting here. I miss you. I don't know.
Mr. Julius, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.